So yesterday I sort of stopped in the middle of a story, probably leaving you wondering what was up. The simple truth is that I was running long, and the stories in question took place over 2 days anyway, and since I'm following Jesus in the days between his entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and his crucifixion and burial later in the week, I thought it made a certain amount of sense to make an abrupt end to yesterday's devotional and then pick it up today where we left off. And we pick up on what would be Tuesday morning in Jerusalem. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, March 26th, 2024. The Gospel of Mark does something very interesting, something unique among the Gospel narratives. Unlike Matthew and Luke, who have Jesus riding into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and immediately going in to cleanse the temple, Mark ends the Palm Sunday story with the words, "Then he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple, and when he had looked around at everything, as it was late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Well, then the next morning, it's when the cleansing happens. The next morning, Jesus returns from Bethany, which wasn't more than a mile from Jerusalem, to see the temple. But along the way, he does something interesting. Mark begins his narrative of the day with Jesus and the disciples passing a fig tree, and Jesus cursing it because it bore no fruit for him to eat. This, in spite of the fact that it wasn't even time for fig trees to bear fruit, leaving us to wonder why Jesus would curse that poor tree. The answer lies in a literary technique Mark uses several times. Mark frequently starts telling one story, interrupts the flow of the story to tell another, and then returns to the original story. It's a technique called intercalation. He sandwiches one story between two halves of another. This is not by accident. He does this so that the two stories can comment or interpret each other. In this case, the story of the fig tree is a commentary on the religious life of the temple and its leaders, as well as on the religious life of the common people. The point is that the religious practices of the leaders and the people had become stale, barren, like a fig tree that does not bear fruit. What I didn't read yesterday was what Jesus said when he overturned the tables of the money changers, driving out not only those who were selling, but those who were buying as well. Let me read this portion of the story. Then they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who were selling and those who were buying in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. He was teaching and saying, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." We usually think that he was only driving away the money changers and the people selling doves for people to offer to the priests for sacrifices. But notice that he also drove out the people on the other side of the table, the people changing their money and buying the doves. Why? Surely not because the institution of sacrifice in the temple was wrong or evil in itself. It was the law. Rather, I think Jesus understood that the people were just going through the motions, as if coming to the temple and making sacrifices was what the faith was all about. His point, I think, and Mark makes it plain with his intercalation of the cleansing of the temple within the story of the fig tree, is that religion that is only concerned with superficial things but does not bear fruit is a barren faith. Here's the second half of the fig tree story, which takes place the next morning, Tuesday. In the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree withered away to its roots. Then Peter remembered and said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered." Jesus answered them, "Have faith in God. Truly I tell you, if you say to this mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' and if you do not doubt in your heart, but believe that what you say will come to pass, it will be done for you. So I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. So this is a story sandwiched between two halves of another story. And the two halves of the sandwich which tell us why Jesus cleansed the temple. It wasn't that there was commerce going on within the temple. That was ordinary. It's that the faith of the sellers and buyers was not bearing fruit. So in tomorrow's episode, we'll see what fruitful faith does look like. Hint, it's not a matter of going through the motions. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.